Good work tips from doing valleys. If it's a tray, we use 18mm ply, 300 rips, and we set it down 18mm on the rafters, and we use 2-to-1 for fixing point to fix down so it's flush all the way. Here we've got lead. So with the lead we use 150 or even 200 pieces of ply to sit on top for his lead to go up. But what I like to do is, I like to put noggins in, so we've got fixing point for that batten all the way. And even though it may be 150 to 200, I set them back a little bit further so the battens don't split at the end. Also, good work tip is, you're going from wherever the straight edge of the rafters meet onto this rafter. So it's not here, it's there. It's where that edge meets. And it's the same here. So I'll do that parallel all the way through and it works really well. Good work tips for when doing dormers. A lot of people will find out the window size and then make the dormer to suit with the cheeks on the side, and when the window gets fitted, the plasterboard goes into the frame. What I try to do is allow a little bit extra, so you've got the curtain pole that goes past, then you don't get the light come through the side, and it's better for the plaster because it has a better finish. Also, I make it square on the floor, so everything's parallel, then I stand it in position, and then I can level it to suit. A couple of good little work tips is, a lot of people put their studs down on top of the cheeks. If you run a piece of timber up, you've got something to fix to at the back, the ply. I also, when I do make it up on the floor, I leave the top plate longer. And the reason why I do that is so I can tie it all back, so it's joined and lapped to the corners. Everything's tied in nice and strong. Also, very important, minimum and maximum heights for the windows. No less than 900, no more than 1100 in the UK. Also, I try and leave 150 for the roof tiles for the lead to go up. Most cases, the ceiling rafters, joists, shall I say, go with the roof. In this case, because of the way the walls work, they work in the opposite direction. So one of the first things I did was cut a dummy rafter up, work out how that's going to work with my window heights and how it's going to work on my lead detail, so I knew where to put my flitch beams in on my triple joists. Good work tips. Good work tips when joining flitch beams. We either cut a piece of ply between or a piece of 6x2 or so with some timber tex to tie them in. If it was a truss roof, we would have a lot of diagonals in there. With a hand cut rafter roof, we don't have to. But I like to run a timber across and fix a couple of 45s or even bird's mouth them in to sit on top of the ceiling joist. That way you've got a couple of angles there at 45 to tie it in, and that works really well. Good work tips when doing dormers, trying to get the doubles or triples in. I put, if there's a pair, a line right through the bottom of the feet, and then I get a plumb line down from the ridge, or at least a straight edge and a level to get that right. If I've only got one dormer, I will go off the gable or a point, measure through, and I'll put a line through parallel, and then when I put my rafters in, I just put a plumb line, straight edge or a level, move it over. That way it keeps everything in wind and square. Good work tips doing dwarf wall stud walls. There's a few ways. A lot of people run a timber up and bolt into the side, but then there's a movement, and when we get that, the plasterboard cuts don't always work out on the rafter. As well as the Celotex, you have to measure them individually. Another way that people do it is they put a piece of flat against the side here. The only problem is if you've got a little discrepancy, you'll cut all your noggins individually, and it's time consuming, and also they wave in and out. So what I do is make a stud wall like so, put that in, and I'll tap that tight, and that'll take any discrepancy inside, which works for the plasterboard. Also, I will mark the plate at the bottom, so we can parallel these, so all your plasterboard lines are halfway on the rafters, and all your cuts for your insulation Celotex will work parallel. And what I also do is, once that's in, I will get an offcut timber, place that on top of the wall, scribe round it, take the wall out, cut the bird's mouth, push it back in, and then you've got the double plate here, and that also takes the weight of the roof, and everything works well. Good work tips. Good work tips, applying cheeks of dormers. Now see, a lot of people run it down onto the triple, and what you tend to find is the battens split. So a lot of people put another timber upside or another rafter up there. The thing is, if they put another timber in here, they have to cut the Celotex round, or it's a matter of getting another rafter. Now we've got 3 on here for 100mm wide stud wall. Sometimes we put 150 timber walls, so that's a matter of doing 4 or 5 timbers, which is a bit over the top. So what I do is just put the thickness of the batten on here, stick it down, and then the roofers can just slide the battens in, and then I won't split and they've got a good fix in. If you've got an off-cut soffit or something like that, I'll put that on top. It's easy to slide the ply up, gives plenty of room, and then you can scribe the ply in. It's nice and neat. Good work tips for dormers. Good work tips when doing ladders. If they're a long ladder, I like to make it up with the soffit on first, just because it's easier for reach purpose and flexibility. If they're short like this, what I tend to do is level up on the brickwork up to my ridge, and then I cut it on the inside of the brick. That way, the weight of the gable, that will take the ridge. On the top section, what I like to do is, I like to leave the ridge following through, because it's easier for me to level up from the brickwork, measure out my thickness of my soffit, fix it here, and I can adjust the rafters back to it. It's a lot accurate and it's a lot neater. But what I tend to do is just get an offcut with my pitch on, and I'll hold it up to the ridge like so, and I'll follow the line, bottom of the line of the rafter through to the other side, square it across and cut it. That way, when I run my soffit up, it will miss the cut of the ridge that I've got. Good work tip. Good work tips doing box ends. If I've got a 150 barge board and maybe a 150 on a soffit, the box end's really tiny. So at the end, I cut a bit of soffit round, bigger, so the box end's bigger. If it's too big, I'll just cut it back to suit so it looks in proportion. Also, good little work tip is, this is how I do my box ends. I will hold that in line where the joint is, and I leveled it up. Then I'll cut my barge board neat. And then I'll put a level across to lift it up or down to suit, so I know it's level. I'll mark the back of it, then I'll cut it. And once that's fitted, my box ends, I will join it so. If my fascia is only a small upstand, and I know it needs to be 50mm, I lift it up to think of how it's going to work with the slate. Once it's pinned and levelled, then I will cut my corner strip round, but I cut it like so. So when it does go around the back, I can level it and move it to suit, and it will cover the joint. That way, everything's nice and neat and tied in. Also, I'll make sure all my nails are perfectly in position.